The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, "Now I am going to the one who sent me, and not one of you asks me, 'Where are you going?' But because I told you this, grief has filled your hearts. But I tell you the truth. It is better for you that I go. For if I do not go, the Advocate will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convict the world in regard to sin and righteousness and condemnation. Sin, because they do not believe in me. Righteousness, because I am going to the Father, and you will no longer see me. Condemnation, because the ruler of this world has been condemned." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Well, at this point in the season of Easter, we're kind of in a little bit of a transition towards Pentecost. After the sixth Sunday of Easter, the church starts to shift its focus towards the coming of the Holy Spirit, which is preceded, of course, by this feast on Thursday, the Feast of the Ascension of the Lord. And so thus we have this gospel reading today where Jesus says to his disciples, "It's better for you that I go. For if I do not go, for when I go, the Advocate will come to you." The Advocate being the Holy Spirit. And so Jesus is preparing his disciples for his departure, and there's a sentiment among them of disappointment or confusion. And we can understand this because oftentimes in our life, in times of trouble especially, we wonder, where is the Lord? I need his assistance. I feel that he is absent, and we can be troubled by that. So the disciples were faced with this, that Jesus, who had died and risen from the dead, was going to depart, right? And so, anyway, Jesus speaks these words to his apostles at the Last Supper, really at the end of his life, but we hear it in the context of preparing for ascension, when the Lord will ascend to the Father and then send the Holy Spirit. And so it seems at first glance like this is bad news, right? Jesus is departing the disciples, but it's really good news, because when the Holy Spirit comes, we see in the Acts of the Apostles how the church becomes alive, right? That the apostles become almost like other men after Pentecost, filled with the life and the grace of the Holy Spirit. God begins to do amazing things among them. And we hear about that in the first reading, where Paul is imprisoned, and he's broken out of the prison by an earthquake. But as a result of that, people are converted and baptized. And throughout the Acts of the Apostles, we see that by the power of the Holy Spirit, the church comes alive. And even though Christ is no longer among them in the same way, the disciples are doing things far more amazing than when he was with them. Because as Jesus says, "It's better for you that I go, for when I go, I will send the Holy Spirit to you." Here's further good news. It's not the time of the Acts of the Apostles, but it's still the time, the age, if you will, of the Holy Spirit in the life of the church. And so no matter what happens, the grace and the power of the Holy Spirit is alive and active in the midst of the church. And I really believe that the more I trust in the Lord, the more I rely on him, the more his grace and power comes alive in us, for all of us. If the more we believe in him, the more we trust in him, the more he will bless us, the more he will strengthen us, the more he responds, right? And so Jesus says, "Whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you by the power of the Holy Spirit." By the power of the Holy Spirit. So as we prepare for Ascension and for Pentecost Sunday in these final weeks of Easter, we do so with expectation of the goodness, of the power and the grace of the Holy Spirit in our lives, and trusting that the Lord will accomplish great things among us.